When all else fails, lie, cheat, and steal. That seems to be the motto of the current Republican Party, because they've come to realize they cannot win using honest, open elections. They just can't. They are a hateful terrorist group, and there are fewer and fewer people willing to vote for them in an open and honest election with actually fairly drawn congressional districts. Just can't do it. If you had those districts would be purple. They would not be red or blue. And that means you'd have to have politicians who were willing to had to appeal to everyone. Because if they don't appeal to everyone, they're not going to get enough votes to win. So they're gerrymandered the maps to hell and back to make sure that they marginalize groups. And state after state is being sued and successfully being told you have to create congressional maps that are fairly done. And they keep refusing to do it until the courts come in and say, okay, here's your new map. This is what you have to use because you refuse to do your job because you're bigots. They don't put it in those terms, but that's the reason. They want to make sure they marginalize people that are brown or black. They want to make sure they marginalize the Democratic vote. Because they have to. They have to do that. Otherwise, they're not going to win. It isn't complex. And I don't use this word often, but it's because they're fucking evil. Because they will serve the altar of capitalism and of social conservatism above everything else. And they do not care who they have to sacrifice on it. They do not care if their policies endorse mass shootings every single day. They don't care if it endorses a healthcare system where 68,000 people die every year because they can't access healthcare in America. They don't care that we're losing $450 billion of money that wouldn't have to be spent if we had a universal healthcare in our nation. That's because that's what it would be. We would save $450 billion and we would save 68,000 lives every year if we had a functioning healthcare system. And they don't care about that. They don't care about us endorsing dictatorships and apartheid states all over the world because it furthers the cause of capitalism. They don't care that we are endorsing the nation is endorsing policies that poison the land and the air and the water and are stripping our planet's capacity to support human life. They do not care. So long as they and the people that look like them are in power, they are convinced that everything they do won't affect them. They are convinced that as long as they're wealthy enough that they can insulate themselves from the devastation they are reaping upon the world. But there isn't enough money in the universe to protect them from the consequences of climate change, or even possibly the consequences of their policies when enough people get angry at them. Now, I'd like to have those angry folks just go to the polls and vote them out, but it's getting harder and harder because, as I mentioned, they're doing everything in their power to disenfranchise the folks that they don't like. But we have to keep trying. We have to keep going. Put on your masks, go to the polling booth, vote for the Democrats. I know the Democrats are sad. I know they are sad. They are a horrible option. They are center-right conservatives because that's what the best we have in America right now. But if we can get rid of the Republicans and then we have center-right conservatives to deal with, that's going to be a hell of a lot easier because they are a hell of a lot less dangerous. They're happy with the status quo. They're okay if, we jail more black people than white people. They're okay if black people have no wealth and white people do. They're okay with many of the policies that exist in the world today because it doesn't impinge upon them, their personal lives. It doesn't make them uncomfortable. Because even the vast mass of Democratic politicians will do anything to make sure that white people aren't made uncomfortable. But white people are going to have to get fucking uncomfortable because they've been making the lives of people that aren't white uncomfortable for centuries, millennia. And it's time it stops. Some of the Democrats are actually on board. They believe that it has to stop. They believe that we have to do things like control the guns in America and change our environmental policies and rethink our supporting dictators and apartheid states. There's not a lot of them. There's a handful of progressive politicians in America, and we need to vote for them again and again and again until their numbers grow and we can drive the center-right conservatives into extinction. Because what America needs is democratic socialists. I know that's a scary term for some folks, but the option is death or democratic socialism. Those are the two options. If we don't get on board with doing what's best for us and the planet, what's best for everyone, that make sure that every person has civil liberties and human rights, there aren't going to be any people left who will need civil liberties and human rights. And the folks that think they can insulate themselves from the consequences of their actions are sorely mistaken.